Go ahead and call the Cumberland County Board of Commissioners meeting on June 2nd to order. I'd like to welcome everyone here. Just as a note, Commissioner Council plans to call into our WebEx, our virtual meeting link. So when she comes on, we'll recognize her. She's currently not on, but we'll recognize her and bring her into the meeting once she connects. At this time, I ask for the invocation and pledge of allegiance. I'll call on Vice Chairwoman Jones to lead us.
Good morning. Please stand. Heavenly Father, we just thank you. We thank you for the beginning of a new month and for a new day. God, we ask that we will make choices and decisions provided by your wisdom so that we can move forward and grow in our community for all those that live here in Cumberland County and even those that visit. God, we ask for safety and protection of those that serve on Fort Bragg and everyone that's in our military and those that are veterans as well. We ask for protection and guidance and appreciation for all of our emergency responders, firefighters, EMTs, and again, we just give you all the honor and praise for the leadership that we will come together and be united in all of the bodies of government and also that of throughout our community. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And we'll go ahead and move to item 1, approval of the agenda. And we'll call on Vice Chairwoman Jones.
Yes, I ask for a movement to approval of the agenda.
Second.
No. We need to add some items to the agenda first.
Oh, okay. I request to add the proclamation recognizing the U.S. Army's 250th birthday to the consent agenda for approval first. Sorry about that.
Second, I guess.
You can second, and then we'll take one vote after the county manager asks anything. If it's not unanimous, then we'll move back.
Yes, and when we get after we finish the item of business, I have some information that's been provided. I want to share with the board, discuss, and then I'll turn it back over to the chairman. Not an agenda item, more of an informational item.
You want to add that as item B, item of business 3?
Yes, item of business 3B, informational item for commissioners.
Okay. All right, I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda with the addition of the proclamation and the informational item presented by the county manager.
I make a motion that we approve those changes and those added additions to the agenda.
Is there a second?
I second that. That's right.
There's a motion on the floor that's been for approval of the agenda. All in favor, raise your right hand.
That is unanimous.
We'll go ahead and move to the consent agenda. Are there any changes to the consent agenda outside of the one already added? Hearing none, I ask for Vice Chairman Jones. Do you have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Yes, I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion on the floor to approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I ask for your vote. Raise your right hand in the affirmative.
Unanimous.
And we are on items of business 3, and we'll go ahead and move item A, second reading of ordinance regulating explosive on firing ranges and amendment to section 9.5-100A2 firearms regulations. County Manager Greer.
Yes, I'll turn this over to Rick Moorfield, County Attorney. The second reading is required for this type of ordinance, and I'll turn it over to Rick to answer any questions you may have. Go ahead.
This is a standalone ordinance and an amendment to the existing ordinance in section 9.5-100A2 that was considered by the board at the last regular meeting It was not approved by all the commissioners at that meeting, which required the second consideration by the board. There's nothing changed. It is the same ordinance and amendment that was considered fully at the last meeting. And if you finish this now by adopting this ordinance and this amendment, you would adopt the resolution adopting the ordinance identified as the ordinance regulating explosives on firing ranges and to amend section 95100A2 firearms regulations, which is set out in the agenda package.
Commissioners, are there any questions or comments, or discussion on this item? Commissioner Adams, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm against this ordinance. I think it's kind of inconsistent. We reduce the penalties, but we increase the space. And you're talking about, Second Amendment rights and gun rights, what you can do on your own personal property to be able to do that. And the space that we're asking for, those yards, those are football field long. Nobody would be able to do this on their own home, on their own private property. I think that it's a dangerous road to go down when we start trying to increase this. So I would encourage folks to vote no on this. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Attorney, can you clarify the penalties, increase versus decrease? There's a couple variations of this that came through policy.
The penalties that were initially proposed by the policy committee were $100 for a first offense and $250 for a second offense. After consideration by the sheriff's office, the sheriff's office requested that those be increased to $250 and $500 for first and second. So that's how they got back in there. The penalty for the amendment has not been changed. It is in a separate ordinance on firearms regulations, and it is just a $40 penalty.
And Mr. Attorney, this is around exploding ordinances as well as more than it is limiting somebody's ability to fire a weapon.
It does not affect the use of the firearm. It affects the use of the target. You can't use this prohibits using exploding targets that are not regulated by federal law, because if they're regulated by federal law, then we don't have any jurisdiction. But this is for particular types of what is called binary explosives, where you buy the components and put them together, and it's apparently a popular thing now.
Commissioner Tyson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Attorney, I was in the policy committee meetings where this was briefed, and there was some discussion, and I'd just like for you to provide the full board with this information, that there is some pending legislation that could have some bearing on the passage of this. And so could you just provide that information to the full board so that they can consider that on this item?
I left that out on the last presentation of the board because that particular bill did not make crossover.
Right.
But it was a bill that was pending in the House that basically would have prohibited you from doing any kind of regulation of shooting.
Commissioner Adams, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Adams, you had your
I'm
light
fine,
on.
Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Any further discussion on this item? All right, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion. Vice Chairwoman Jones?
I make a motion to adopt a resolution adopting ordinance regulating explosives of fire ranges and the amendment section 9.5-100A2 firearms regulations.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
A motion on the floor. It's been properly seconded. Any further discussion on this motion? Hearing none, I'd ask you to vote. Raise your right hand in the affirmative.
Voting in favor, Vice Chairwoman Jones, Chairman Debbie Ear, and Commissioner Fairclough. Voting in opposition, Commissioner Tyson, Commissioner Patel, and Commissioner Adams. Commissioner Council, are you on the line? It's 3-3.
Okay, we'll go ahead and move to the next item. There's no action on this item of business?
Good morning, Commissioners. This morning, I set at each one of your seats a black folder. In that black folder, it contains information regarding the Crown Event Center. The first document you should have is the AIA document, the updated GMP3 estimate based on after the pause and consideration of tariffs and inflation. That information is the first thing on top. Secondly, you should have evaluation to modernize the Crown Arena Theater. That's the second document that's in there. And then lastly, you will have, it's really a 4-pager, but it's really 3 pages of written summary, multi-purpose center parking assessment updated, provided by architect. And so your review, we wanted to make sure that you all got it all at the same time and that you had time to review it and review the assessment that staff, the information that staff has recently received this week. And I'll turn it over to the chairman for next actions.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Tyson, you're recognized.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to know if the attorney has had an opportunity to review these items, given that we still are working through some disputes on our downtown center that are unresolved. I would just like to know, one, whether or not any of this information could be potential attorney-client privilege, given that dispute, and two, is if he has seen these documents and had a chance to review them for that fact.
Mr. Attorney.
I have seen the documents, and it was my understanding that these documents were to be provided to the board today for it to be considered at a special meeting to be held at some point later in this week. Am I incorrect in that assumption? Okay.
I don't think the question's around the future action. I think the question is, have you reviewed it, and is there any issues with attorney-client privilege of the documents that we have in front of us?
No, it's already out there, so there's not an attorney-client situation at this point.
Commissioner Tyson, does that clear your point of order, or do you have additional questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Manager, is there anything you'd like to cover on these items?
Not at this time.
Okay. Board, you've got information in front of you around the requested items that we've asked for the Crown Event Center. We will look to set a special meeting later this week. I'll poll the board on what works, potentially looking at sometime on Wednesday afternoon. I know I want to be respectful of people's schedules. But would like to move on this information in the most deliberate process that we can based on the time that has been coming. So potentially looking at sometime Wednesday afternoon, and we'll announce that after this meeting through the clerk once I poll the commission. Any further comments or discussions on the information provided? All right, no motion is necessary, is needed. As for information only. We don't have any nominations. We don't have any appointments. Mr. Manager, I understand there's no need, Mr. Attorney, no need for a closed session.
That's correct.
Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor, raise your right hand,
Unanimous.
and we're adjourned.
For the team to group and unmute mics. You made it just in time. You rolled it. That was a record fast meeting. Team, we're going to count.
Thank you, and good morning. We continue our series of Chairman's Chat. So this is again an opportunity for us to give you any updates, and more importantly, an opportunity for our press to answer or ask any questions ask any questions they'd like to around the topics we covered or additional topics. Again, we appreciate you being here. We appreciate you continue to be here, whether you're streaming or actually here in person. Our hope is that you'll be here in person so we can have the dialogue. A couple things to go over. First, you saw this morning there was an update on the Crown Event Center. So the items that we have been talking about are back in front of the board now. That was received by the board this morning. It's the first time, quite frankly, when I opened my envelope, it's the first time that I have seen it as well. So we'll take some time to digest that information, work with the staff to see if we have any questions around it, and set a special meeting for this week. At this point, we need 48 hours, so we'll probably look to Wednesday or Thursday for that special meeting to discuss the items that were the new items and information that were provided to the board. We will do that in open session as a full board. It will not go back to the Crown Event Committee. It will stay at the full board because we are now at a full board discussion. There's no reason to move it through a committee at this point. Again, we will do as much of that in open session as we can, unless there's a point that we have some attorney-client privileges or concerns that our attorney, but my goal is to have as much dialogue as we can in front of the public, because this is a public matter of over $145 million and how we're going to move forward. Next, the emergency shelter, the unhoused center, the emergency shelter. We're continuing to coordinate with continuum of care. A couple things are happening. We still are having conversations and discussions with Salvation Army in regards to the reopening of the shelter and the services around that, and the proposal that we discussed at our special meeting. So more to follow on that. There is not an update on that right now. Also, as I'm sure that you saw and heard about the what was happening at the Regency Inn last week with some of our unhoused population, are just as a point, that was a collaborative effort between the city and the county to make sure there was some resolution on that as best we could, based on the issues that were happening around the Residence Inn, Regency Inn. And then just from an unhoused support center, we should have an update and more information on that. We are meeting internally. Just as a point, that project was put on pause in November of last year, not by this current board. I know there was an article recently done on it and the background on it. I just wanted to make that point of clarification. And also, I expect over the next week or so, 2 weeks, we'll have some additional information move forward around that project. So we got a lot of moving pieces right now. That takes us to the budget. We have actions to date. The manager has released his budget. It showed a revenue neutral tax rate of 55.9. I'm sure you've all seen the budget presentation and information around that and the highlights of it. We have had one work session where the commissioners now are working through the budget. We will have another one on Thursday along with the public hearing. So the public hearing will be at 7 p.m. That's when the public has the opportunity to come in, talk for their 3 minutes on what they, how they would like to have their input into the budget. On top of that, we've done 5 coffees with commissioners across the community to get input and hear directly from the citizens about their budget priorities. Following the public hearing, we will move back to a budget work session. We will move back upstairs to the conference room upstairs. It will be live streamed, but we'll move back up there for convenience of presentations and information. We will have that work session, and then we've got 2 others scheduled as needed. Our hope is that we can get through in 3 or 4 work sessions, and then move to a final vote. That's the actions on what's happened with the budget. So those are really the 3 main items I wanted to talk about today. So I will open it up for questions, and I'll turn it. Good morning.
Good morning. So the first is the Crown Center.
Where are you from?
I'm Claire Carter with the Fayetteville Observer.
Thank you.
With the Crown Center, so you guys are going to have another special meeting to talk about the information that you were given today. How soon can we see a decision on what's next for the Crown Center?
Directly up to the board. Based on the information we received, there's actions that we could take at the next meeting. If the board decides they need more time for deliberation, then we'll take that. But it will be a decision of the majority of the board, how we move forward.
And so, when the Crown Center was coming to fruition, there were all these public meetings for public input, there were surveys put out. Since there's been this pause and what seems like a lot of change with it, would you be open, or would you like to have another public meeting once you guys have time to review this information and once the public can see this information?
I think that's an option that this board has to entertain from the public. I can tell you that we've heard a lot from the public over the last 2 to 3 months, which is great, and we would invite more. I think the information that has been out with the surveys, and that's a basis for this information. Again, remember, there were pieces of information that this board wanted to see to fill what they believed is some gaps as we went through this due diligence process. And so that is an option. The board may choose to do that before they take any action. They may not. We may come in and approve a direction that we need to go.
And so switching gears with the Salvation Army, at that special meeting, Major Aaron Goldfarb said that he is leaving at the end of June. I think at that point in time, he said he had 33 days left there. Why enter into an agreement with all of this money and all of these details with someone who's leaving? Why?
So the Salvation Army is a national organization. We're actually negotiating the service contract with their regional office out of Atlanta. So we know that heads of organizations flow, but the mission of that organization stays the same. Claire, it's kind of like if you ever happen to leave our great community as a reporter, there's going to be another reporter that comes in behind you. There's a continuity of effort there, but Gannett and the Fayetteville Observer isn't going anywhere, at least right now that I understand. I hope not anyway. So we're really negotiating with a national, and I think that's the other thing that this board saw when we began to talk to an entity that's been around for the amount of time that they've been around, and the national footprint that they have as well.
And so then kind of in the same sphere with the Unhoused Support Center, is entering this MOU with the Salvation Army and helping fund them, is that delaying the Unhoused Support Center further? Because, I didn't even know about it until you mentioned it when you first announced the urgency with the Salvation Army. So, there's the Salvation Army aspect of that, and I also think the Crown Center in a way plays into that, planning process as well, because you only have so many people, so much energy, so much work that you can put into all these projects. So how are we going to see that unfold? Where are you guys at with that?
So if you look at the bed capacity, emergency shelter bed capacity, over 3 years ago it was identified we needed roughly 200 beds. This community has been way under that, 70-something beds. 90 beds. With the closure of the Salvation Army, we're just trying to get back to that capacity. So by reopening and working with the Salvation Army, we're getting that capacity back of emergency beds. And then that's taking that short-term approach, intermediate approach, and long-term. So long-term, we ultimately want to have a shelter where we have 200-bed capacity across our community. But we have to take incremental steps. It was unforeseen that we would lose 50-plus beds in a community, so we needed to fill that gap from a short-term standpoint first, and then begin to move towards a long-term solution, which anytime you're doing construction projects, and I believe this staff has the bandwidth and the ability and the capacity to manage those projects simultaneously. So anytime you do a project like this, it's going to be 2 to 3 years anyway on construction, but we have to continue to fill that need. And hopefully with working with the continuum of care as well as some other nonprofit partners, we can continue to help fill those gaps, and hopefully the community steps up as well. We're also working very collaborative with the city if they're going to participate with the beds at Salvation Army as well.
All right, that's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Paul Wolverton with CityView, and can you describe briefly the role that the Residence Hotel was having in our community, and briefly what led to its sudden, I guess, they closed it, and I heard one rumor that they sent some people to Charlotte who were living there. Is that true?
I don't want to speak to rumors. I expect to get an update today from our staff, and our staff has been working hand in hand with the city as well as the continuum of care. Our focus is to make sure that the people that didn't have a roof over their head, specifically, again, women and families, we ensure that they had a safe place to stay based on whatever happened at the Regency Inn. And that was a city side. I mean, there was, my understanding, code enforcement and other things like that that played into it. I don't want to speculate. I prefer to give you facts. And I think I would hope that one of the news organizations continues to dig into those facts around some of the circumstances that led to the many people that had a roof over their head that as of Friday didn't, and we were able to help work and make sure that they did.
So was it serving as sort of a de facto low-income housing residence? Or
Not by the county. It was all privately driven.
Okay, and then so they had, people were living there, they didn't have much income, and then the problems developed and it got suddenly shut down?
I can't speak to that. That's
Okay.
going to be, again, the facts around the case I do not have because it was funded privately. And those were people that were, there wasn't government involvement.
Okay. Y'all received 2 documents today during the meeting, is that correct?
Quite frankly, I haven't even opened the package to go all the way through it, so
Okay.
I'm not sure how
Well,
much information.
As I was
is in
driving in, I heard the manager describe, I thought one had to do with the Performing Arts Center and the other I thought had to do with tariffs or something.
No.
I
So
misunderstood.
we'll have some information on the construction package. So remember, we had a final construction package, pricing to come back. So we'll have that. I think what he was referencing, the tariff piece, so
Oh, I got you.
how we got to the final pricing. I think
Okay.
that was some of the timing of it, because we know that tariffs change day to day. And so I think that was, he was answering a timing question of when we got the construction package. And then an update on the modernization and renovation of items at the Crown event, the Crown complex with the arena and theater, and then some additional parking information
Okay.
on this footprint.
Oh, okay. So, well, I would like to get a copy of those documents, and I'm sure Claire would too, so count this as perhaps our oral public records request.
I'll direct that to our communications director, and y'all can work that with her.
Okay. The gun range ordinance, what was the,
Wasn't a gun range.
it had regulates the targets that people shoot at.
Mm-hmm.
What was the reason for developing this ordinance?
So there are there's explosive targets that were happening within our community. So while people have the ability to discharge their weapons legally but they were shooting at targets that then exploding, causing very high decibel noise ranges that were within the proximity of other houses and other individuals. And so there wasn't anything that spoke to exploding targets because those are a unique type of target that has really just really started being used. And so there wasn't anything that kind of governed that. We wanted to make sure that we didn't have unduly noise decibel levels in these areas.
So has this been happening in Cumberland County? Were you getting
Yes.
complaints? Okay,
Yes.
Like, where?
Out in some of the rural areas, so you look at Beaver Creek, Beaver Dam area, and some other communities as well.
So residents said, hey, they're making lots of noise. Can you do something about it?
Correct.
Okay. Maybe you can connect me to some of those folks later?
Glad to. I've spent many hours with a lot of them.
Huh.
And understand their concern,
And-
especially when you talk about PTSD for veterans and the impact of an explode. I'm all about, make sure we're clear, this wasn't a move to restrict gun owners' rights. This wasn't a move on any Second Amendment restrictions or inhibitibilities. This was to limit the explosion that was happening when a round was connected to a type of target that explodes at a decibel level that can be disruptive to neighbors, let alone a veteran that may have PTSD.
Have you heard these targets explode?
I have, yes.
What's it sound like?
It's loud.
Yeah.
I don't have a decibel meter in front of me,
Right.
Paul, but it's loud as well as, it's loud. I'll leave it at that.
Okay. And of course, you're a veteran also.
But I do not have PTSD
Oh, good, good.
that I'm aware of.
The unhoused shelter, if you know, tell me why it was paused back in November?
Previous board decision, I can't speak to that.
Okay, so it sounds like you
Well,
hope-
let me
Go ahead.
clarify that. Let me clarify that. So I think that the staff requested the pause because they wanted to review the scope of the project, the relationships with the partners, and what in the overall scope of it. They needed to not just a scope from the type of the project, but the scope that would be included with the partners that were on the project
Okay.
itself.
Oh, I'm sorry, circling back to the gun range, so you had a 3-3 vote this morning on that ordinance. So that means it did not pass, so what happens next? Is it just dead, or can you all bring it back?
We'll bring it back.
Okay.
This veteran and this chairman will bring that ordinance back.
You got a sense for how soon you can do that?
It didn't pass and it didn't fail. Therefore, you can bring that motion back at any time. And I'll let our attorney correct me on that, but it can be brought back at any time.
So it can't pass because it was tied, but it's not, to your knowledge, it's not counted as failed because it wasn't a majority vote against it?
It didn't fail. It's correct.
Or is it didn't fail because the vote was to pass it and?
There was no action taken by the board
To-
because it didn't pass or fail, so the
Okay.
ordinance wasn't adopted and it wasn't failed. If someone would have made a motion after that and it would have been a 4-2 vote, then it would have failed. Then there's no action that can come out of
Oh,
that.
kind of like we saw in a previous meeting where you all had to vote twice on a topic.
Correct.
Okay. And then going back with the Salvation Army, they dropped the ball. Why continue to work with them instead of going in a different direction?
Again, those are your words, Paul. Drop the ball, not this chairman's
Well,
or this
they
board's.
suddenly shut
Words
down
have-
with no
I
notice.
understand.
Yeah.
Words have meanings, though, as
Yeah.
you've told me a long time ago. And so, for whatever reason that they have, and I think the officers from the local Salvation Army articulated their reasons in our special meeting, which was the reason we wanted to have the special meeting. So I'd encourage you to discuss with them on their reasons why they needed to close. They talked through those in detail at the special meeting. Again, I think our point is that it is a national organization. They have the capacity, they have the ability to fill this need now. There is not another location in this county right now that is what I would call turnkey ready, that has beds, that has the ability to a kitchen, and that has the capacity to do it and has the years of knowledge of how to do it. So I think this board saw them as a partner to increase or get the capacity back that we lost. And again, working with an entity that's been around a long time, working with the regional side, not just the local commanders.
Okay, and to your knowledge, perhaps did any people who suddenly had to leave the Salvation Army shelter end up at the Regency?
I can't speak to that, Paul.
Okay. And I'm not sure if I asked this already. Do you have a sense for how soon you'll be able to get your shelter online, or you're still evaluating?
Again, so our staff is, the Vice Chairwoman Jones is the chair of that committee. She's requested some information back, as she articulated in the article this weekend or today, is that, she doesn't want to just have a meeting to have a meeting. We need to have a pathway forward. The staff needs to have cleared their issues and have a clear way forward that they can brief the chairwoman so that we can actually come to a committee meeting and chart the way forward. The bottom line is, we need this. We need the capacity of 200 beds. It was identified over 3 years ago. They had $1.25 million at that point in order to execute a solution, even if it was a short-term or interim. We still have that same need today. This board is committed to, and I believe, not speaking for her, but the Vice Chairwoman Jones is extremely committed as the chair of that committee to ensure that we not just fix that long-term need, but we fix the short-term and intermediate as well. So I think that's the process that we'll see.
Okay. On the budget, since with the revaluation, residential property values on average went up a whole lot more than commercial properties on average, so even if you're revenue neutral, the average home is probably going to pay more property taxes. Is there any thought to lower the tax rate even further to provide some relief to the homeowners?
I think those are some of the conversations that you're going to hear the commissioners talk about. We understand that the property tax rate for individuals, for homeowners, potentially even at a revenue neutral, for some could be lower, for some could be higher.
Right.
I think there's a blend of that, and I think those are some of the conversations that you're going to begin to hear our commissioners have those discussions at the work sessions.
And the manager had also recommended keeping the rates the same for the recreation tax and the fire departments. What are your thoughts on following that advice or perhaps lowering the rate?
I think all those items are up for discussions. I want you to think about the recreation side. As we look at growing recreational services across this community, especially in the unincorporated areas as well as the smaller municipalities. I think there's an opportunity to ensure that we have the funding to do that, but it is a discussion. He provided us the quote-unquote revenue neutral rates if that tax was reduced or that those fees were reduced. So I think that's a pointed discussion that we'll see. I think it's challenging with the fire side because remember that fire tax formula funds a lot of our volunteer fire departments. Those volunteer fire departments right now are struggling from a recruitment standpoint, from an equipment standpoint. All those costs have risen, and we want to ensure that when someone calls for public safety services, whether it's fire or any others, that they get the response that they need. So I think you're going to hear us have conversations. As I've said all along, I believe that this board wants to be as responsible as we can with the people's tax money, and we want to ensure that we lessen the burden without lessening the services.
And on the PwC's solar farm, do you anticipate it coming back before your board? I know you said at the PwC meeting you'd been in discussion with their leadership. From your angle, what's next on that?
So I had a conversation the day after the vote with the CEO of PwC, as well as the chairman of the PwC Commission. And we just talked about the item, communications, how we can work together moving forward. We did not specifically talk about the project. That's a PwC decision on how they want to move forward. I know our staffs have talked as well, but it's in the hands of PwC. I think they have a lot of options that they can move forward with or choose to not move forward with.
If the city were to annex that property, that would fall under the city zoning code, and then they could possibly move forward. Is that something the county would try to stop or oppose or fight or lend any kind of opinion on?
I think we'll wait to see what PwC's actions are before we move forward.
All right, well, anything more from you?
I would actually ask you something.
Can you come up to, oh, okay,
Off camera.
okay. Is there anybody else? Any other questions?
Thank you all so much. If you have any further questions, you can email me. I think everybody here has my contact info, and I'll send you whatever you need. Thanks. Have a good day.